welcome to another episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the lands and airwaves where this conversation takes place. Land which was never ceded. Land where communities came together to eat seasonally, locally and without exhausting resources. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and rising. Today I'm talking to Anthony Femia. Anthony is a cheesemonger. Not just any cheesemonger, but an internationally recognised cheesemonger who regularly sets off on wandering cheesemonger trips around the world, and in 2018 was the first Australian cheesemonger to be invited to the cave of Marcel Petite in the Jura mountains in France to select his very own flavour profile of Comté. Luckily for us, Anthony calls Melbourne home, and in 2015 he opened Maker and Monger in the Prahran Market. So you can get along there and sample the glorious Comté for yourselves. But that's not all. There is all kinds of cheesy goodness going on down there, and Anthony very much sees the cheesemonger role as one of educator as much as seller of cheese. He loves it. Having spent over a decade refining his own knowledge here and overseas through reading, research, tasting, and of course by spending time with master cheesemongers and top cheesemakers, he very happily imparts his fromage largesse. I felt honoured to sit down with Anthony and get a glimpse of that knowledge, and we honestly could have talked for hours about seasonality, affinage and what makes good blue cheese. To celebrate 8 years of the Chapel of Cheese, as Anthony likes to refer to the permanent stand in the Prahran Market, he's been running a Friends of Fromage series over August, and this will continue into September with every weekend featuring toasties made by iconic Melbourne chefs. So far, tastebuds have been treated by friends of the podcast Dave Verheul, Shannon, Martinez and Tom Sarafian. So I'd be blocking out the next few weekends if I were you and heading down to the Prahran Market. Joe, nice to meet you. How are you?
Good.
Sorry, I think I've just done the circuit of the market. How's your day been?
Yeah, it's been pretty cruisy actually.
Yeah.
Wednesdays we get all our prep done for the week and just get a bit of a deep clean and just get some accounting done.
Yeah.
So,
amazing. So
yeah.
I've got lots of questions.
all right,
Because and then I had to write them down just so I'd remember them all. So I normally talk to chefs, but then I
Yes.
think it's really great to talk to suppliers and
Yes.
as well. So I'm happy to talk to you today. So to start off with,
yes.
what is a cheesemonger?
Yeah. So a cheesemonger, yes, it's an all-encompassing position when it comes to dairy right through to cooked cheese products. So we're out here to educate people not only on products that they should be eating in season, but also how to cook with those products, the understanding of the proteins, the milk, more importantly as well, what the animals are grazing on, whether it's grass or silage and how that can affect our health. And just being there to advocate the raw milk fight as well, and the artisan and farmhouse cheesemakers as well, to celebrate them, whether they're making incredible products in Myrtleford or down the coast in Mornington. It's about letting customers know that there's more to life than just triple cream brie and cheddar. So yeah.
Yes. And how do you become a cheesemonger? Do you have to study?
You can. We're not fortunate in this country to have those courses, but in the UK there's the Artisan Cheese School where you learn how to become a cheesemonger, which has been pretty good.
Yeah.
In America they teach you, and they also host annual cheesemonger competitions called the Cheesemonger Invitational. That's a great friend of mine named Adam Moskowitz. He set that up with the guys behind Neal's Yard Dairy in London and a few other incredible suppliers of cheese from Europe to educate and create a remarkable cheese scene in America. Like the cheesemonger world over there is phenomenal. It's, I guess, where we are with baristas in the coffee industry at the moment, where they're seen as someone prominent in their community, and you can make a real career out of it. And then in France, of course, you've got an actual university where you go to study, become a fromager and an affineur, and it's like a 4-year course that you do straight out of school, and you have access to the Medal of France winners, so the MOFs, and you can do a stage with them, or you can start your own cheese shop. So it's...
And what did you do? What was your pathway?
Yeah, I worked with some pretty interesting characters in Sydney, in a couple of delis up there, and a lot of it was self-tuition, reading dairy science books that I could get my hands on, working with mum in a food store and watching the way she interacted with customers, and then taking myself on annual trips to Europe to work with cheesemakers or spend time with cheesemongers. And I was lucky enough to be a part of the World Cheesemonger competition in 2013, and I came fourth. And back then it was like the best of the best cheesemongers. Now it's kind of turned into a competition where anyone can kind of nominate themselves and enter. But back then it was an incredibly fierce competition, and I was winning most of the day, and then stuffed up on the cutting of the cheese, because you had to cut 250 gram portions of products, and in Australia we don't really sell that large amount. We do more 150, 200, so I got nowhere near 250 and dropped out of the rankings. But
what were some of the other categories? Like, is it smelling and tasting?
Yeah, so blind tasting. Also, there was 50 multiple choice questions on dairy science, and I got 50 out of 50, which was great. And those questions also included photos of animals. We had to identify the type of cow, the type of goat. You had to conduct the perfect cheese platter. So you had this access to this 2 metre by 1.5 metre table of all these remarkable raw milk cheeses from France, and you had to conduct and build. You had to do a perfect pairing as well. They gave you a cheese a day beforehand that you had to then go to a local market and pick the goods up to create that dish. There was a cold dish, there was a hot dish, and then you had to do a cheese scenery to encourage kids under 8 years old to eat cheese. So I created like a little train track and little cupcakes and these incredible sort of stones where you'd eat the cheese off it, and then you'd be able to draw on the stone. So it was just being creative. And then you had to sculpt cheese, and that was something that I had never done before. So I practiced with soap for about a month before the competition, because soap bars have texture like cheese. So instead of wasting cheese, I just went to a chemist and bought a lot of soap, and they looked at me quite weirdly. And
what kind of cheese are you sculpting?
So mimolette, which is this really hard, round, orange ball of a cheese from the north of France, so up in the Nord. So you can do beautiful flowers on that. They gave us a wedge of Comté to sculpt, and then this little semi-hard tom cheese that I just did little florets with. So, and then from there, I thought, I really want to make a go of this, and applied for a Churchill Fellowship, which I won in that same year, and went away in 2015 to the centre of France to a guy named Ivan Larcher, who's now here in Castlemaine, Victoria, at Long Paddock.
Wow.
But he's known around the world as like the figurehead when it comes to the science behind cheese making. Like a lot of the New World cheeses, whether it's Jasper Hill in Vermont in America, Neal's Yard Dairy in London, we've had him help them resuscitate old recipes that a lot of the territorial cheesemakers are now using. France as well, a lot of cheesemakers there. They utilise his skill set. So I spent a few weeks with him, went to Neal's Yard in London, spent a month and a half there working in the caves and going to different cheesemakers around England, and then spent 6 weeks with Jasper Hill in Vermont there in America, and some time with the University of Vermont and Harvard, learning about microbiology and cheese rinds, and that was fascinating. There's a professor there, or she's now in San Diego. Her name's Rachel Dutton. She worked with David Chang on a lot of his ferments, and they had a documentary about her, and she had just discovered this unique, connection between bacteria on the rinds of wash rind cheeses and barnacles in deep sea, and they couldn't find out how they were linked, like the DNA matched, and it was quite interesting because you'd automatically assume it's the water that we're using to wash the cheeses, but it wasn't. It's just the DNA.
That's fascinating.
So
wow.
that for her is quite interesting, and for us cheesemongers who like to delve in science, that's pretty phenomenal.
So I feel like you packed in like a whole degree. So how long were you?
That was it was about 12, 14 weeks from memory. Yeah, about 3.5 months.
That's intense. How amazing!
And I came back and opened Maker and Monger. That was 3 weeks later. So
amazing.
Yeah, I had to sort of digest the knowledge and then get into entrepreneur mode.
So I read that Maker and Monger, though, the idea was born at Builder's Arms.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then did you go and do that?
Yeah. So I left that job, Spring Street Grocer. I'd been working there from the very beginning of design phase. So back then that was just an empty office space, and the owner of the European didn't want a 7-Eleven to go into that space and sort of tarnish the look of that beautiful Paris end of Spring Street. And so I went that was actually a funny night. I went one night to the European. It was my farewell. I was moving to Brooklyn to go work in cheese over there in America, and I went with a great knowledgeable man, Richard Thomas, who a lot of the cheesemakers were taught by. He developed quite a lot of cheeses here in our country and helped train a lot of chefs to make cheese in their kitchens. And we brought our own cheese, and the manager at the European was quite shocked that someone would bring their own food to a restaurant, and went to kick us out. And Con Christopoulos, who's the owner of that group, heard who it was out there and came and said hello to Richard, and then he sat with us with a bottle of Burgundy and an actual cheese plate to put our cheeses on, and proceeded to tell us about this project he had next door, and he didn't know what he wanted to do, whether it was a gelato bar, grocer, and he had this underground thing. And I met with him the next day, cancelled my flights, and then the rest is history. I helped design and build and run that pretty cool underground
cheese
shop.
Cool.
So,
go down the spiral staircase and it's just like,
yeah.
Because I know people say this is the cheese chapel, or the chapel of cheese.
Yes, yeah.
Which do you prefer?
The chapel of cheese.
Chapel of cheese, right. That was like what was that? That was like
It was like a St. James subway.
Yeah.
Like back in
cool.
time,
I know.
1950s, just real cool Art Deco, plus sort of just the bricks that we had sourced for that walls were amazing.
I know.
And the architect,
did a great
Kristen
job.
Green, she was phenomenal with her creativity. Unfortunately, it's now more of an event space and they sell cheese upstairs, but back then it was a great time to be in Melbourne in food, because a lot of great chefs were coming downstairs to discover things, and I could then wholesale to them, and in particular the guys at Cumulus and Cutler and Co, and their knowledge through their weekly staff training gave me the confidence to say, okay, there are people out there who want to learn more. It's not just Dauphinois or whatever, Seinagur or that kind of thing. It's like, okay, people want to know seasonality and flavour. So.
Yeah. And so are you, did I read that you're also in the Guild?
Guild of Fromage, so I'm still the youngest ever to be inducted.
So that's really going back to the Masons' days, isn't it? The guilds and things. That's cool.
It's a funny guild. We're not sure exactly what it is.
How many people are in it?
I couldn't tell you, but they're getting more and more popular in America. But over here, it's kind of a political thing now. Now it's who's friends with a certain person who has the permission to induct people. So there's some great people who haven't been inducted.
Have you got a secret handshake, or is it just like a just a cheese thing?
There's cool robes. The one I want to be inducted in, and I never will, it's the Brie de Meaux, where you actually wear the same size as a Brie de Meaux on your head. So it's this 60 centimetre Brie hat, and you wear the red cloak, and you become the protector of Brie. But
are you the garde des jurés?
Yeah, so just
what does that mean?
That's kind of like the guard and jury of cheese quality. So there's certain levels. So there's the Maître Fromagère, which is the number one, but that's more of a boys' club, and that will never happen. So it's
fascinating.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. Like for me, it was more access to studies that you could get your hands on and read, and also the community. So for me, the better community is the Slow Food Cheese Festival, the one that's held every 2 years in Piemonte in Italy. They're the advocates for raw milk and farmhouse products, and that's when everybody from around the world who are passionate about protecting indigenous products, they get together, and those dinners are remarkable. Just listening to people talk about different ways of pasture grazing, different animals, cultures that they use in their milk, maturation methods for certain cheeses. You really walk away very motivated to then come home and talk to your local cheesemakers and go, hey, this is what I'm seeing overseas. How about you try experimenting? And it's all about keeping journals as a cheesemaker. Like, there's no written formula every day. It changes. There's so many variables, like the sunshine, rain, how tall the grass is. Like, if it's too tall, there's no nutrients left. Are the cows eating close to their paddies? Like, is the dairy clean? Because if the dairy's got, cow crap in there, the half hour of between milking and waiting, that half an hour beforehand, whatever the cow's breathing or eating, that comes through in the milk. So if you've got a dirty parlour and your cows are walking around in cow paddies, chances are 99% of the time that flavour will tarnish your milk. So it's little things like that you pick up at these great conversations with these people that you bring back here, and they don't teach that at TAFE or farming colleges. So
this is a controversial question. It just came to me. Where do you stand on the whole Parmesan?
The protection of the name?
Yeah.
I see the pros and cons. Because I'm an artisan and farmhouse advocate, I like it because it forces our cheesemakers to come up with something that's unique to them and their terroir. And we have a few cheesemakers who have done that, and the restaurants support them. But they don't have access to supermarkets. So then on the other hand, you've got the big industrial players, the big co-ops like dairy farmers and Parmalat, etc., who make that Malel, Parmesan and Pecorino, and they stock, we're talking millions of dollars there that they export to either Asia, Abu Dhabi or across Australia, and to all the supermarkets, and make a consistent product. And how do you tell someone that could be a 5th or 6th generation farmer who's supplying milk at a great price to those cheesemakers, hey, sorry, they're not going to make Parmesan anymore? Who do you play devil's advocate to? Do you play it to the farmers who are trying to make a go and make something interesting, or the ones who don't want to supply milk to less than $1 a litre products and want to make a commodity product? Because in every industry you have commodity dealers and you also have artisans, and the commodity ones are usually the ones who invest in research and development, so you want to encourage them to survive. But I still think they should change names. Like, the one that they should definitely change is Pecorino. Pecorino is sheep, and over here we make cow's milk Pecorino, and it's very misleading. And if you've got a cow's milk allergy, which a lot of people do, they think it's lactose, but it's actually a cow's milk protein, and they're eating local made Pecorino. It's a very frustrating and dangerous dice that they roll there. So I guess, getting off the soapbox, that's the only one I would change. The word Parmesan, that's American name, would never be able to copy that, as long as we don't call it Parmigiano Reggiano, which is protected. Then
And I saw that a local cheesemaker has just won the Artisan Prize for his blue cheeses at Berries Creek.
Yeah, Berries Creek. He won Best Cheesemaker at the World International Awards, and first time I think in 140 years that someone outside of Europe has won that, and hats off to them. Like, it is, especially his Riverine Blue, the buffalo, which he draws the milk from his neighbour, and buffalo milk is the hardest milk to use to make blue cheese because the fat globules are quite large. It's more susceptible to rancid notes. Like, it's so easy to spoil buffalo milk when adding blue cultures and then oxidizing the cheese on the inside to develop a blue mold. And he just did it by chance because he makes incredible cow's milk blues, but he wanted to trial this because his neighbour had excess milk, and he hit a home run. And for us at Maker and Monger, we're super proud of that, because for 8 years now, that's been that and Colson Bassett Stilton have never left our counter. For me, those are the two best blues in the world. You have your Roqueforts, you've got your Rogue River Special Reserve, but for me, Colston Bassett Stilton from Nottinghamshire in England and Riverine Blue from Barry are the two best blues available in Australia. And we've been saying that for so long here. And it was a proud moment for us, the cheesemongers working here, just how cool that was. And I saw the sales go up this weekend because a whole bunch of new people wanted to try blue cheese, which is great because as kids we've all had, like I grew up with blue Costello and tongue sandwiches. That was my lunch. What? And so you're either a Danish blue fan where your mouth is just coated with absolute brutal salt and spice, or you're a Costello fan where it's very creamy with a slight tang. Yeah. There was no in between. And if you were a Danish blue kid, you never had blue again because it was a very bad experience. But if you were Costello, you kind of wanted to experience different cheeses. And Riverine kind of sits in its own category because it's a natural grinded blue, so the flavour of the milk grows as the cheese ages, and then they spike it to develop the blue mould. So buffalo milk gives you this incredible raw almond-like flavour, so just that hint of nuts, hint of sweetness, and then you balance it with that syrupy blue flavour. It's perfect. Wow. And hats off to them. They deserve that. And I know a lot of great cheesemakers that enter that competition from around Europe that deserve to win every year, like the perfect Gruyere and Gruyere Alpage. Like, they're phenomenal Alpine cheeses, but to see the Aussies do that's great. Fantastic. And it should give other cheesemakers confidence to follow his mould. Like, he just does blue cheeses. And in our country we have cheesemakers who try to be the farmer, the animal husbandry, cheesemaker, cheese affineur, farm gate, farmer's market, and they think I need to make 10 or 12 different styles of cheeses because I need to do all that. Yeah. But Barry, it's just blue cheese, send it out to the distributors and watch it grow. Like, we need to specialise in just one style, and it's just give them the confidence to do that. So.
It's so European, isn't it? I think that is, I visited, when I lived in France for a year, and I had friends took me to the Roquefort Cave,
Nice.
and I just couldn't. When I first tasted it, it was just too much for me. Especially, I mean, Roquefort is brebis, so ewe milk, and it's super salty, and it's pretty strong. But now I think it's the queen of blue cheeses. But I want to now try this Riverine one. Yeah. And my French friends were saying you can't consider yourself French because, I wanted to become French, and unless you can eat Roquefort, and they would mix it with butter, and they'd do everything just to get me. And I'm like, surely it's not. But then I was a total convert. And
the Larousse cookbook has a famous recipe, 50% Roquefort, 50% butter, mash that together. If you're using 100 grams of each, you then do 30 ml nip of cognac, fold that through, and then spring onion or shallot, depending if you're in Victoria or New South Wales, just the white parts of those long green onions, dice that up, fold that through, and that's how you have it. And so we sell that here. We call it the Roquefort dip, and that's
yum.
It's been, that Larousse cookbook has been fascinating to learn the basics of cheese in recipes and how to introduce people to Roquefort, because it's a big slap in the face. I mean, the texture is incredible. That's second to none, how it just melts on the tongue. You can't recreate that with any other milk other than sheep's milk. Yeah. And especially that Lucerne, that sheep there of that region, it's a noble sheep of France. And then you've got the Maniche sheep of the Basque, which is up there as well, with the black or red faces. So their milk is highly prized.
Have you been to Roquefort, to the Comté?
Not to that part yet. I was meant to, but I had a nasty bout of listeria.
Oh no, not from a cheese.
I went with Ivan one day to taste with these cheesemakers, their new creations, and there was one cheese there that he wanted me to do a sensory evaluation on. He didn't want to touch it. Oh. And I tasted it, and basically the body organs almost shut down, and we had to drive. And because we were in regional Laverne, there weren't any chemists. And then we went to a supermarket to try and get lemonade to help encourage gas and then vomit. But the only lemonade they had in the supermarket was all loaded with alcohol as well. Like, it was all mixed.
Oh my God, so French.
So we had to we raced back to the farm and got this. It's like a gel that becomes a clay in your stomach, and it's in a little, like a toothpaste tube. So that's all I ate for 3 days, was this gel to help solidify the stomach, to stop the gases, etc., from going through the body and into the other organs. So
God, who would have thought cheese tasting would be fraught with peril?
Yeah, but that, like, in very, very regional parts of France where they still use like no temperature control, it's under the house, it's wooden. I mean, wood is safer than plastic, but very old wooden utensils with no knowledge for health requirements. There are certain things that will still scare you and harm you. And
God, okay.
That one, that was an interesting. My
Wow.
life almost ended before my career began, I guess.
Yeah, it's alarming. But you do a lot of cheesemonger wanderings around the world.
Yeah.
So where are some places you've been?
I mean, the most magical for me will always be Comté, so the Jura Mountains.
I wanted to ask you about
So that for me is the most special cheese, because that's the last of the AOC or protected cheeses in France that hasn't had any industrial influence. Like Roquefort, for example, is going through what Champagne went through, where they're trying to extend the parameters. Camembert as well. They're now starting to tighten Camembert rules again, because they loosened it and allowed other milk. It used to be 100% Normandy cow milk, and now it could use Frisian. It could also go from outside of Normandy to come in. So Camembert became the most popular yet most bastardized cheese in the world. But Comté has stood the test of time, and the day I went, it was snowing in March, so it shouldn't have been snowing, and it was just beautiful going up that mountain, up to the Fort Saint Antoine of Marcel Petite. So it's this old war fort that was built during the Prussian Wars that Marcel Petite himself took over in 1950s and transformed it into a cheese maturation facility. And that image of that cave is on every wheel of Comté. And when I started in cheese in Sydney and had to sit in this bloody cold room that the owner of the business said was 10 degrees, but when I bought a hygrometer, it was actually -4, and I used to have to stand in there and sell cheese to people. That was my first proper cheese job.
And you stayed?
And I stayed because I wanted to learn and grow in cheese. And that was the only thing that got me through, was when wedges of Comté would come in with that image of the fort on the Comté. And I said,
one day I'm
going to go. And I won a scholarship. I got best cheesemonger in Sydney in 2007, I think it was. And that got me a 2-week trip to Melbourne to Holy Goat. And I absolutely loved that. And then moved to Melbourne and thought, you know what, I'm going to start travelling for cheese. And went and got invited, because you weren't allowed to just visit Marcel Petite back then, and built a relationship with them to the point where we pick a reservation. We're the only cheesemonger in the country that has the opportunity to go to Marcel Petite every year and pick a flavour profile. So the affineur or trieur, Jose, who's been there for 32 years, there's him and Claude, who are the master affineurs, and then there's all these people training under them, and Jose's dad taught him. So it's a career spent in this fascinating cave, and I don't know how they do it.
What does an affineur do?
So they learn their tongue, so they learn the palate, and then they learn the hearing. So they get a little trieur, so it's like a little hammer and taster, and they bang on the Comté to learn the acoustics of what a good Comté sounds like and what a cracked Comté sounds like. And then it's the tasting. It's seeing where that is at its age, what the cows were grazing on. And so when I went there, I drew on a little sensory tongue, parts of the tongue I wanted to hit, and then wrote French names for things like nuttiness, sweetness, honey. It's like the great halls of Lord of the Rings, or the dwarves. Like, he just ran through these giant halls. There's like 200,000 wheels in there, and he starts picking batches of cheese that he knew would have that type of flavour. So
amazing.
It was incredible. And for me, I didn't know how he did it, because that, like, the signs of a healthy maturation room is ammonia, like very bad ammonia. So you see it on a video, or you think, wow, that's romantic, but you go there and your eyes are stinging, because healthy cheeses give off gas, carbon dioxide, so it becomes ammonia. So I don't know how the hell he did it, that he could taste things while still smelling. So obviously he's adjusted to it.
Yeah.
So it took me 3 days of going back to the cave to then appreciate what flavours he picks. So his role every month is to pick 6 wheels for us that will have that flavour, take the 2 months to travel on the ship to get to us, and still have that flavour profile. So the age of the cheese becomes inconsequential, because we could sometimes get a 10-month-old Comté, 18-month, 24-month. It's just going to always have that creamy texture and the flavour that we want.
Definitely coming back and trying some of that. I love Comté. I just love the butter. It's almost like shortbread. Some of those Comté you have where they're just so, and kind of almost crumbly, but I love that.
And then there's a myth of the old Comté. Like, this is the Coca-Cola effect of things. Like, people talk about 3-year-old Comté, but the 8 affineurs over there in the Jura, no one's ripening their cheeses beyond, say, 24 months. If you get a 3-year Comté, you're paying premium for something that's been rejected a long time ago and just sat in someone's cool room. Like, there's this huge wholesale facility there in Rungis in Paris. It's this remarkable wholesale shed where cheese, as far as the eye can see, like, it's kilometres worth. And there's a shed in there that has Comté that they've taken from all the different affineurs that have been sitting there for up to 3 years. And then it goes from like a $5 a kilo cheese to $200 a kilo by the time it hits a deli counter in Australia. And you think, I need to try that 3-year-old. Like, and you taste it, and it's changed completely. It's dense, it's caramelized, it's got the calcium crystal crunch. It's what a great Gouda is. But then people think that's incredible. It's like truffle oil. People who have grown up on truffle oil and never experienced a fresh truffle, they think truffle oil is like a luxury product, but it's a chemical made in a lab with 0 truffle in it. So yeah.
Illusions shattered.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, just tell me, you've mentioned a few times about seasonality.
Yes.
Naively didn't really know about seasonal so it's tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, you think about, like, in autumn, winter, you crave meatier products, you crave fulfilling food. So, autumn is always duck or game. Winter, we go for slow roasts like lamb, pork, etc. It's the same with cheese. Like a great wash rind, like Epoisse from Burgundy, Long, which is from Champagne, or Pont-l'Evêque or Livarot from Normandy. You go for those in the colder months because you're also drinking the wines in those colder months that match, whether it's a Languedoc Syrah, a very gentle cold climate Pinot from Victoria. You need those sort of meaty umami flavours to match those wines. People don't really eat goat's cheese in winter unless they're doing a salad. They ask for goat's curd so they can do their roasted beetroots or citrus and fennel salads. And then you do a little quenelle of whether it's labneh or curd. And then things like triple cream bries, they're very popular in summer because people have parties and gatherings. So we try and teach people when to eat certain cheeses, and also in winter we're a bit more relaxed with our bodies, so we tend to drink more, and that means maybe more dessert wine as well. So that's when blue cheeses are super popular too, because people love blue cheese, the spice of blue and the sweetness of the dessert wine. It just works magically. Like a Roquefort with Sauternes is still the best pairing ever. So, and that's what we do. We look at, we're lucky here to be right in the middle of the fruit and veg hall of the market, so we see what's in season. And it's tough at the moment because with the climate changing, we're seeing tomatoes ripening now towards the end of January rather than November. So we're seeing people making more tomato salads around there. So mozzarella sales are up around that time. Ricotta sales are up. Figs go all the way through to autumn now, which is crazy. So people are loving blue cheese and figs and honeycomb once they have those heavier dishes. So I teach my staff to be aware of what's around us, whether citrus are kicking in, to do those citrus salads with shaved pecorino, or great honeycomb harvested from our friends at Backyard Honey. As soon as that fresh honeycomb comes in, we pair that with the Parmigiano Reggiano that we do, We crack open wedges of that Crevero Parmesan, and having that, which is such a sweet cheese compared to the other Parmesans, which are quite bitey, with that richness and sweetness of a honeycomb, it's such a incredible pairing. It's so simple yet so fascinating, because every taste bud on your tongue starts dancing, and it shows people just how great two raw products can be when put together. So it's a lot of fun opening people's eyes here at the counter to remarkable things like Tom cheeses, like the Pyrenees cheeses, the goats and sheeps. They work incredibly well with those gentle reds. So autumn, when people are doing duck and pinot nights, it's still a thing. They're coming for those type of cheeses, and it's pretty cool.
And is there a perfect cheese board, or would you advocate more for doing a single really good cheese with a honeycomb, that kind of style?
Yeah, see, there is a perfect cheese board, but it all comes down to what wine you want to pick and whether you want it to be a pairing. For me, I always pick one wine and two incredibly well paired cheeses that go with that, and two different textures. So lately it's been about tasting Chablis that we've had at the shop for 2 years and we've held, so 2018, 2019 Chablis. So that minerality is there, the hint of the sort of secondary flavours and tertiary flavours that develop in the bottle, so little vanilla notes, so Comté and beautiful Camembert go incredibly well. And we just do those two for dinner parties. I've been lucky enough to open up a couple of really cool bottles with the staff of some Languedoc Syrah, which is quite fleshy and like deep purple plum flavours. So we pick two great cheeses with that, and we try and tell customers this is what you want. So in terms of like the ultimate cheese, I guess probably to give people a more direct answer, if you're doing a pre-dinner cheese platter, the perfect cheese plate is something soft from the Loire Valley, whether it's a Chaberchou, Monthé, Cefoy or Valence, a semi-hard from the Pyrenees, whether it's the Chabran or Chabris, so it's a goat's milk semi-hard Tom, and then the Comté. And those three with a Sancerre, any of those Loire Valley whites, or just a crisp Shannon Blanc, it's perfect, because you've got the salinity, or the notes of salinity in the wine, you've got hints of salt in the cheese, but they're all front of palate cheeses, and they get your palate going, they get the saliva going, so whatever you have afterwards, you know you're going to eat, because your appetite's going, you've got all that sort of sweetness, the hint of salt, a little bit of umami from the Comté, but everything else is acid and sweet and savoury, and it just gets you hungry. So that's like the perfect pre-dinner or pre-lunch cheese plate. Triple cream bries have their place, but that's more celebration. I wouldn't serve that before a dinner, because it's a bloody addictive cheese, and you're going to eat a handful of crackers or bread with it, and you fill yourself up with the carbs, so by the time the dinner comes out, you're too full. With these cheeses, like these goats and the Pyrenees and the Comté, you don't need anything other than fresh fruit. They don't need a morsel of fruit toast or bread or biscuits. It's just a slice of pear in winter, or barbecued white peaches in summer. It's perfect.
Delicious. So would you suggest that people only buy enough that that's going to go in the night?
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Because I was going to ask you about keeping cheeses, but maybe you shouldn't be keeping cheeses.
If you're struggling to get to your, like with all of us having really busy lives these days, sometimes a lot of people only shop once a week.
Yeah.
So if you are going to buy enough cheese to linger through the week, what you want is to purchase from people who sell cheese in cheese paper and cut to order. So if you're buying pre-wrapped, glad-wrapped cheese, it's already suffocated, it's already oxidized as well, and you're spending big money these days on quality cheese, so you want to make it 100%. So what we recommend with our customers when we wrap it in the paper, if they're only going to serve, say, for 2 people tonight, cut a portion and serve that, and keep the rest of it in the paper in your vegetable crisper. So keeping cheese wrapped in cheese paper, in a paper bag, in the vegetable crisper where all your greens are, there's a lot of moisture, and cheese wants moisture. It's a living organism. It doesn't want to dry out. Like the myth of putting it in the drawer where the butter is in the door, that's great for butter because that's dry, cold. But for cheeses, it needs to be moisture. And And if you want to really geek out, you can get yourself a little Tupperware container, put a damp Chuck's cloth on the bottom, one of those little wooden sushi mats that you can get from the $2 shop, a little sugar cube, punch a hole in the lid, put that in your fridge, and that keeps around 80-85% relative humidity and around 6-7 degrees if your fridge is about 2 degrees. And that's a cool environment to maintain cheese for up to 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow. And
every time you pull your cheese out of the fridge, if it's a hard cheese, you just get a flat blade knife and you just scrape the faces just to get rid of oxidization. Because no matter how great your conditions are, there will always be a hint of oxidization. Cheese like that doesn't go off, it just dries.
Yeah.
So you just quickly do a little shave and then you serve it. And the myth of serving cheese after 1 hour at room temperature, no, because all those hard cheeses which are high in butterfat, they sweat. So the ideal temperature is about 8 degrees, which is about 10 minutes out of the fridge. I've seen restaurants leave the cheese out for so long and then serve it to customers, and when you describe a cheese to them, all they taste is salt and spice, and it's like, oh, all that sweat on that cheese, that's the flavour that I was telling you about. So when people are at home, just 5 to 10 minutes out of the fridge and then serve. Comté is one of those Alpine cheeses that will sweat straight away, half an hour at room temp of 18 degrees. By the time you eat it, it's kind of that sort of mushy texture, and it just, the flavour's dissipated. So and if you do that, if you keep care of your cheese, I keep wedges of Parmigiano and wedges of Comté in my fridge at home for up to 2 months. So I'm a bit lazy at the end of the day. I don't want to cut a portion. I cut a big block, or I just take whatever big block is there and wrap it up in cheese paper, take it home, and then cut what I need. And then cheese maintenance is like second nature. We spend an hour and a half every morning trimming our cheeses here at the shop to make sure that they're always in pristine condition for our customers. So,
do you think about cheese 24/7?
I think about cheese and Maker and Monger, I think 24/7. It's cost me a few relationships in the past, I guess. But like anything that you're passionate about, there's always ideas. Like you could be watching a TV show, reading a book, looking at some artwork, or just driving and you see something or you hear something on the radio and you go, hang on, that's just sparked this idea in my head. I want to run with that. And I have a little notepad and I'll always write little notes, or I'll ring one of the staff up. I hope they don't mind when I bother them and just go, hey, I reckon we should try this. Or, to tune off at home, I try not to watch cooking shows, but inevitably I do. And I love it because it gives me an idea for a dish that we can then recommend to customers to add some dairy element they would never have thought of. And I love that. And that's why I think, 24/7. I don't have cheese dreams, so I still think that's a bloody myth, unless you have a kilo of cheese and you get the same endorphins as recreational drugs, apparently, and that's what they've done in a study in America, and they've proven it. So that's only happened once a year. When I have my birthday, we've dubbed it Cheesapalooza, and we have since, I think I've been in cheese in 2006. So every birthday I've had, I've always just done like a big cheese event, whether it's fondue, raclette. Whoever gets lucky enough to get invited to my house, they overindulge in cheese, and they always tend to tell me they've had interesting dreams, but then you look at the bottles of wine the next morning that have been drunk, and it's like, okay, was it the alcohol, or was it a combination of the alcohol and the protein? So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Amazing.
No, thanks. What time?
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with the Chef with Anthony Femia at Maker and Monger. You can check out all the goodness, and I have to say there is a lot of it, on Instagram at Maker and Monger. That's all one word, MakerandMonger. If you like what you heard and want to hear more stories from other chefs, I'm on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef. You can read the chat, although you don't hear our amazing dulcet tones, but you can become a subscriber at www.conversationwiththechef.com. It's good for me. I feel like you're there. I know people are reading it, loving it, hopefully. It's good for you because you get to know when new conversations go up. I'd also really love it if you told a friend about my chats, and you can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Once again, thanks for listening. Have a great day and bon appetit.